Remember, it only took 53 days for Hitler to destroy democracy in Germany. Trump is trying to beat that record. So we need to show up, speak out, and demand that our Democratic politicians raise holy hell and do something to stop this process before there's nothing left of our country, of our government. Musk's and Trump's national security sabotage and why Putin and Xi are laughing. These guys have created an absolute national security nightmare, and apparently on purpose. I mean, an unelected billionaire and his merry hacker band are rooting through our nation's secrets, poking around in your personal information, financial and medical records, and reportedly altering the computer code involved in paying our nation's bills. And most recently, they gave a 23-year-old working for Musk access to the Department of Energy, which manages America's nuclear weapons arsenal. One of his teenage colleagues who's also rummaging through our nation's secrets, reportedly runs websites in Russia. This is being managed by the same billionaire Trump donor the press says is in regular contact with Putin for the past 2 years and cut off Starlink to Ukraine, according to press reports, to prevent them from attacking the Russian fleet in Crimea. Musk was never elected to anything. He doesn't appear to have submitted to any kind of background checks, security checks. The people he's put inside the multiple federal agencies have no civil service, vetting. Remember back in 2016 when the Republicans were all hysterical that Hillary Clinton had a private server in her basement to handle her own personal email, and a couple of dozen government emails accidentally ended up on that server? It's a national security nightmare. The FBI has to look into this, says Jim Comey, just days before the election. That national security election, Trump is going to protect our secrets. Hillary Clinton is loose with these things. Yeah, right. And then Trump stole thousands of classified top secret documents, including our nuclear information, and left them in a publicly available bathroom where multiple alleged spies wandered through Mar-a-Lago. This week, the CIA sent an unclassified email to the White House with the names of all the new employees. The New York Times reported, quote, some former officials said they worried that the list could be passed on to a team of newly hired young software experts working with Elon Musk and his government efficiency team. If that happened, the names of the employees might be more easily targeted by China, Russia, or other foreign intelligence services. One former agency officer called the reporting of the names in an unclassified email a counterintelligence disaster. Pamela Brown pointed out to me that, it's just that list of people from the last 2 years. No, it goes beyond that. If they're in the Treasury Department's payment system, they have access to the paychecks for every spy America has anywhere in the world. I mean, how much is that information worth? Are you really going to trust a 19-year-old hacker to not sell that to China or Russia and retire to Mallorca or something? I mean, gutting the CIA, putting Tulsi Gabbard in charge of our intelligence agencies, they just shut down the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force. We're no longer looking for foreign influence in our elections. Officially. Go ahead, Russia. Go ahead, Xi. Go ahead, Iran. Put your guy in charge of the United States. I mean, both of these dictators, Putin and Xi have to be laughing so hard that they risk a hernia. And that's just the beginning of the gifts that Trump and Musk are handing them. Both of these dictators have hated the USAID, the Agency for International Development, forever. Putin shut it down in 2012 in Russia. Xi spent over $1 trillion since the Road and Belt Initiative, Belt and Road Initiative was announced in 2013. $1 trillion trying to compete with USAID, which had a $35 billion budget last year. I mean, we're getting incredible value for the money we're spending with USAID. And they just shut this thing down? And of course, Trump has openly defined laws that Congress passed to allow China to continue to operate TikTok. He's just saying, we're going to ignore the law. And then he's alienated Mexico and China. Yeah, our two closest allies and trading partners. I mean, Trudeau and Sheinbaum just played this guy, right? They both agreed, yes, we'll give you troops on the border, no problem. Trump apparently didn't realize that there are already 10,000 troops on the border in both countries because of a deal they cut with Biden. So they were like, oh, yes, Mr. Trump, we'll do that for you. And Trump goes out and says, look at what I just got. It's been there all along, you fool. And then this indicted war criminal comes to Washington, D.C. and says, hey, Mr. Trump, I got kind of a problem here. We just destroyed Gaza. It's going to cost billions to rebuild it, and whoever goes building is going to get shot at. So and suicide bombed. So wouldn't you prefer to have American troops and American construction companies, maybe one owned by your son-in-law, maybe one owned by you, to rebuild Gaza instead of us poor Israelis having to do it? We really don't want our soldiers to be shot at. We don't want our construction crews to be suicide bombed. Would you please do that for us, Mr. Trump? And Trump goes, yeah, sure, no problem. He bought it hook, line, and sinker. Netanyahu's still in D.C. The Republicans are treating him like some kind of, emperor god. I mean, keep in mind, if we're going to put troops and construction crews in Gaza, the reason bin Laden attacked the United States was because we had an Air Force base in Saudi Arabia. He said, your forces occupy our countries. You spread your military bases throughout them. You corrupt our lands and you besiege our sanctities to protect the security of the Jews and to ensure the continuity of your pillage of our treasures. Yeah, that's why 9/11 happened. If you liked 9/11, you're going to love what comes next if Trump does this. Just saying he's going to do it, in fact, has probably already inflamed, a lot of upset. Now, we had Mark Pocan on yesterday, and he said basically that he thinks that Musk is doing all this, trying to gut all these government agencies and zero out their budgets to free up money for tax cuts for billionaires. And I'm sure that that's a piece of it. But I think it's much more insidious than that. I think that they are actually trying to destroy America. Elon Musk was not even an American citizen until recently. Donald Trump has, in my opinion, hated this country his whole entire life. He went over to Russia back in the 80s, and the Russian intelligence just embraced him and showered him with love and praise. And him and Ivana, and his wife, Ivana at the time, her father was a KGB agent. And Trump comes back to the United States and publishes an op-ed in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the LA Times saying, hey, let's pull out of NATO. Just like Putin wants, or just like, it wasn't even Putin then. Just like Russia wants, just like the Soviet Union wants. He even did a campaign stop in New Hampshire in the 80s. I mean, Russia's been pushing this guy forever. There are only three forces that can stop them now: public opinion, independent media, and Democrats. I mean, they're already ignoring the courts. Now, maybe the courts can at the last minute here or something, but remember, it only took 53 days for Hitler to destroy democracy in Germany. Trump is trying to beat that record. So we need to show up, speak out, and demand that our Democratic politicians raise holy hell and do something to stop this process before there's nothing left of our country, of our government.